Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Student Athlete Town Hall. My name is Jake Wozni, and I'm a member of the Kings hockey team. This past Friday, we learned that the ACAC's decision to cancel all competition for the fall term. That announcement likely brought many emotions, as it did for me, along with many questions. I'm pleased to be joined by RDC President Dr. Peter Nunoda and Athletic Director Diane St. Denis, who are here to help answer some of those questions.
Thanks, Jake, and call me Peter going forward.
Okay.
Here, so that'd be a lot easier
Sorry.
for you. So my message really to our student athletes is this: we understand it's a time of uncertainty, but you need to believe that we are 100% behind you and everything that you do, both as students and on the competitive fields and rinks. So we're here to support you without question, without compromise. And I just want to make sure that all of you hear that message clearly from me.
Thank you, Peter. And I'm going to echo some of what Peter said in regards to that. I know it's a very difficult time. It's challenging. There's a lot of questions. I encourage you as student athletes to stay connected with your coaches. Stay connected with us. We want to hear from you, and we are listening. And I know tonight we've received a lot of questions, and there'll be more. We will do our best to answer as many questions as we can tonight, but if we don't have the answer, we will find it for you. The situation is still evolving, but we want to hear from you. Stay connected. That's the most important part.
Throughout the town hall, you can email your questions to questions@rdc.ab.ca, and we will try to answer as many as we can this afternoon. One question that a student athlete may have is about scholarships. Without fall competition, will RDC student athletes still receive their athletic scholarships?
It's a great question, Jake, and actually I want to assure all of our student athletes that Red Deer College will honor all scholarship commitments for those students who remain registered in at least 9 hours of courses and continue to meet all the training requirements. The only question mark at the current time is the Government of Alberta's Athletics Awards program, and we don't have any definitive notification on that. So we'll obviously keep you updated as that news flows in, but any of you that have been offered RDC scholarships for athletics, those will remain completely in force.
Anything to add, Diane?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Do we have a time frame when student athletes and teams will be able to access the on-campus sports facilities for training purposes?
I don't know, Diane, if you want to take that, or I can certainly talk about the relaunch strategy.
Go ahead.
Sure.
You're doing a great job.
So I think that there are obviously concerns, and all of you would love to be able to train in our state-of-the-art center at the Gary W. Harris Canada Games Center. We are in the process now of working out our relaunch plan. We're taking a very measured and phased approach to that. So as to the actual time that we would allow our student athletes to be back in the facility training, I can't say that for certain. We'll certainly have more definitive news towards the end of August. So, again, as soon as we're able, we'll be talking about those plans definitely. But I know that Diane and the coaches have set out training regimens for you that are outside of the actual facilities. Those obviously need to be maintained, because one of the things that I'm concerned about is that when we do return to a schedule, whether that's January or somewhat later, that all of you are in game shape so that there's no risk of injury. But at the moment, what's first and foremost in my mind is protecting your health as student athletes, protecting the health of our coaches and our staff. And so we'll continue to move very cautiously with reopening.
And just to add to that, because I know it may be a question we have later, along with the relaunch of the Gary W. Harris, we're also developing the return to training plans for each team that ensures that we're adhering to all of the directives from the Alberta Health Services. And there's a working committee on campus that is ensuring that we are going to be presenting safe environments for everybody to come on campus and participate in the training sessions that we hope to relaunch early in the fall.
If COVID-19 restrictions that are currently preventing us from competing are removed, and it is deemed safe to complete later this fall, will RDC teams be allowed to participate in exhibition games?
So the decision's largely going to be dependent on the direction that we get from the Chief Medical Officer of Alberta. And where our particular concern lies, obviously, is in contact sports like hockey, volleyball, basketball, where it's really not possible to create physical distancing in a competitive environment. So we'll continue to monitor that situation very closely. And when we deem it is safe for you as athletes to again compete in exhibition games or in full contact practice, we'll certainly make the decision to move forward. But again, your health and safety is first and foremost to us.
Okay. One of these questions we just received through email. One of the student athletes asked, what will the announcement regarding the cancellation of the fall term mean for practices? Will they still be mandatory or on a case-by-case basis for each team, or canceled altogether to allow student athletes to have jobs, have jobs and the ability to continue working to bring in an income?
So practices are going to be dependent on the opening of facilities, so one goes with the other. The advice I would give at this point in time is that we've made an announcement as far as academic programming being largely online for students in the fall semester. The only exceptions to that will be some health sciences courses like nursing, where there are clinical labs in which students need to participate, or trades and apprenticeship. If a student is living away, we're really going to leave the decision to them as to whether they want to return. But for the moment, the access to the Gary W. Harris Center is not available. And I would imagine that each coach is deciding, what kind of practice, what kind of training is mandatory to maintain scholarship eligibility.
One of these questions came up a couple times throughout the emails. Essentially, what restrictions will there be in place in order to keep us athletes safe and healthy if we do come back to campus and start to train and practice?
So interestingly, I just spoke to Jim Brinkhurst, who was our VP of College Services not half an hour ago. We will have residents available for students that want to take advantage of that and live in town on campus. We'll make sure that the environment is completely safe and is cleaned according to protocols. So suffice to say, when I talk about caution, it's not because I'm not an enthusiastic supporter of our athletics. I absolutely am. But the most important thing is that we maintain a very steady and flattened curve as far as COVID is concerned, and we don't want to contribute to that. So every precaution that's possible will be taken.
Okay. Will the team practice schedule stay the same as the previous year?
I think the answer for Amy's question is that that's really going to be dependent on, again, the reopening of facilities and what each coach decides is appropriate.
This one is in regards to athletic therapy. I was wondering if the student athletes will still be able to utilize the other support services, for example, going to athletic therapy clinic and such.
That's a great question, and again, it is tied completely to the reopening of the Gary W. Harris Center. Athletic therapy tends to be a lot more hands-on, and so the prevention of the virus is going to be more difficult in that environment. But stay posted, and through Diane and through your coaches, we'll let you know as we make decisions around reopening those facilities.
This question is about eligibility. If student athletes compete in a condensed season, does this consume a year of eligibility?
I'm going to defer that question
I know we were
to
just talking
Diane.
We were talking about that before the show. The ACAC is actually having a special AGM on Thursday, and I'm hopeful that that will be one of a few questions that several athletic directors have on their mind right now with regards to that. I know for us at RDC, our preference would be that student athletes competing this season do not consume eligibility, but it will be a vote by all the members of the ACAC. So I'm hopeful that by the end of the day on Thursday, I can give everybody an update on that.
Do we have a time frame for the opening of the Gary W. Harris Canada Games Center gym specifically?
Again, that's all part and parcel of the relaunch plan, and we'll have more to say about that in the month of August.
This one, in light of all the positive tests in pro sports and U.S. college sports in the last week, could there be any changes to the return to train plans?
Absolutely, Brad. Those could have an impact, and we continue to monitor that. Now, we're not at the NCAA level, nor are we a pro sports concern. So many of our approaches to this might have more caution attached to them. But suffice it to say that our number one priority here is to make sure that we don't have an outbreak of COVID on campus, because that would impact not just the athletes, but all of the students and all of the staff here. So we'll continue to go forward within a measured way and carefully, but we'll try to do everything within our power to bring things back to the new normal.
I think the important piece to keep in mind when we're comparing Canada and the United States is the difference in directives. It's a little, I'm going to use the word looser in the United States, and hence why a lot of pro teams selected to go down to the States. If you have an opportunity to go back and look at I believe the name of the website is Alberta Relaunch, right?
Yes.
And it has all the directives very clearly written from the Alberta Chief Medical Officer, and also the directives to the various sectors. So they've even broken down in regards to the sectors of what you can and cannot do in each phase as we come back to whatever that new normal is. So I think that's something to keep in mind when we're looking across the border, that we are dealing with two very, very contrasting tactics to addressing the virus.
What happens to an adult athlete if the winter term is canceled? Winter term specifically.
I can comment on that. So, in fact, this week and next week, we are having budgeting meetings with all of our coaching staff. The recommendation that we have made is to hold off on the Adopt an Athlete program on launching it per team until we get a sense of what's happening with the winter term, unless the team, as in the athletes within the team, agree that they wish to proceed with purchasing their gear, because the Adopt an Athlete is primarily based on covering the cost of team gear. So we will leave it to program by program, but our recommendation right now is that there are certain components we will be holding off on until we have a clear decision on the winter term.
Okay, I know I just had a question, Peter. You did mention the residence buildings.
Yes.
I know I had a couple friends from out of town asking about that. Do you know price-wise, anything like that you can?
So I think,
expand on?
yeah, the best thing to do is to reach out to ancillary services that are in charge of the residences and find out what the pricing structure looks like. I don't have those details, so I don't really want to say. All I know is that we'll be open for business, and we will be providing some food service depending on the numbers of students that we have. So everything will be that modified normal as Diane was suggesting. The other thing I'll say to people is that when you look at the Relaunch Alberta site and you even see the sector directives, all of the decision making has still been left to the presidents of institutions as to what is best for his or her institution. So we continue to have those discussions. So we're not receiving direction actually from advanced education on what we should do and when we should do it. We have to assess our own situation.
Do we have anything else to add? No questions at all?
One the same, so we're just reiterating.
Oh, okay. So I guess that's it then, yeah. Anything else to add?
No, not at all. Nice to meet you, Jay.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And, you know, hopefully I get to see you out on the ice this season. That'd be the ideal situation for me. And kudos to Diane for keeping the whole show together. Want to thank our student athletes and our coaches and support staff around all of the work that they've done in these circumstances. I know it's difficult to appreciate that. I've known that from day one of this crisis occurring, and it becomes a daily habit. But again, I think we have to keep hope and optimism that we're going to return to a new normal as soon as possible. So appreciate that. Oh, you got a question, obviously, Laurel.
Yeah, there's a question about Augustana's announcement last
Yes.
week that they were bailing on ACAC for the entire year, and how close is RDC following that? Would RDC essentially be following that lead?
So I'm sure that you've seen the announcement from Augustana that was just referred to. You also saw the announcement from the University of Alberta that they've decided not to participate in any varsity sports for the entire season. Those are difficult decisions based on budget that those administrators felt that they had to make. I respect that. It's a very challenging time. But for us, we were always committed to continuing our athletics. With the condensed season, we'll continue to be committed to that. And yes, it's a significant investment, but we believe it sends the right message to our community, to our student athletes, to all of our supporters. So no, we won't get to January if there is a schedule to be played and not participate.
That's about it, all right. Well, yeah, again, thank you. I'd like to thank all the student athletes who have sent in their questions and participating. I also appreciate Dr. Nunoda and Diane St. Denis for joining me. Thank you.
Super. Thanks, Jake.
Thanks, Jake.
Well,